So, Sheriff Clarke, is America a racist country? That's what we're led to believe by the president, the attorney general, Sharpton, many in the media, and many others. You're a successful black man in this country. Are we racist?
Not by any stretch of the imagination. And that doesn't mean that there are episodes of racism and discrimination in this country. That's part of the human condition. We'll never totally get rid of it. But we have come so far since the 13th Amendment to the Constitution that outlawed slavery, and the 14th that made us fully able to participate in what America has to offer, I should say. And steadily we've been making progress, but this is a setback. But I believe in this country. I believe in the fact that better days are ahead, and they are. But I need to see some more effective leadership, and that means, a different language being used by some people in some pretty powerful positions that everybody's listening to. But I love this country. It's a great country. Even with all its warts, this is still the best country on the face of the earth in terms of letting people reach their God-given potential.
Doesn't all of this divide from the White House, the Ferguson mess, all of it go against the message of Martin Luther King to judge on character and not color of skin? We're seeing the exact opposite from some pretty powerful people.
That's the irony of it. The President of the United States, Barack Obama, is the first black president elected in the history of our nation. How can he sit up there in the highest office of the land and pander to people and cater to this false narrative that this is a racist country? White voters voted for Barack Obama in large numbers, and they have to feel slapped, like they're being slapped in the face by the guy that they voted for to break that barrier that needed to be broken. And who would have thought that after the election of the first black president of the United States that we'd need a period of reconstruction similar to what happened after the Civil War to put this nation back together again? Barack Obama has engaged as a political strategy, engaged in divisive politics. He's pitted men against women in this fictitious war on women. He's pitted blacks against white with his racially divisive fanning the flames of racial discord. He's pitted American against American in class warfare, tax the rich, the 1%, the 99%. And he's been successful in terms of securing 2 electoral victories with that divisive strategy, but it's been very destructive for the country as a whole.
Yeah, and don't forget gay against straight and Christian against non-Christian. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about this. Instead of, taking your neighbor as far as their character, it's, let's paint everybody into a box. It's amazing in 2014.
Well, what I said, excuse me for stepping on you.
Sure.
That, this could have been a Gettysburg Address moment for the President of the United States, where Lincoln tried to heal the country and bring it back together. And instead, all we're getting out of the President of the United States is simply present.
We've seen some others speak out about not just Ferguson, but race relations as a whole. What do you make of these NFL and NBA stars talking badly about cops? Sheldon Richardson of the New York Jets called Wilson a pig. We expect this from Hollywood. But now athletes, too, the place where people used to go to really get a break from reality, and everybody of all colors and beliefs and any type of background sat down and said, hey, we root for this team together. And now it's all over the place. You can't watch a ball game without politics.
It's a shame that they went and waded into that end of the pool. When I turn, and I'm a big sports fan. I played sports in high school. Now we know where the term dumb jock comes from. When these guys open their mouths, the only reason I turn that stuff on is to be entertained on the field, okay? These guys have superior athletic ability. They do. And they're handsomely paid for it. But when I turn that on, I want to see them perform at a high level, go out and give 100% on the field, and leave it all on the field, for their fans to be able to go out there and enjoy. I do not turn that stuff on to hear about the politics. I don't care about the politics of Derrick Rose and some of these other individuals, the St. Louis Rams going up with this false narrative, and that's being kind because it's actually a lie, this hands up, don't shoot gesture. I think it's childish. I think it's juvenile behavior, and it's a false narrative, which is why I find that so disgusting. But that's how deep this wound has been reopened, that everybody's getting in on the act for their own self-serving interest. And that's why I said, someone like the President of the United States has a duty. I said opportunity to bring this country back together. He has a duty to bring this country back together, and that's why I said he's simply present, because he's watching this unfold. And like I said, it's been very destructive for America. It's a dark period right now, but we'll get through this. And yeah, it's a setback, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a setback. But I'll tell you what, white society has to be getting tired of getting their nose rubbed in the past sin of slavery. Okay, they've come a long way, like I said, in terms of making this a better country and atoning for that sin. But every time they turn around, they're going to get it thrown in their face like they are right now. At some point, human nature being what it is, they're going to say, why should we even bother anymore? But here's a question, because Eric Holder, and he's at the center of this too, in terms of what he isn't doing to make this situation better. At some point, because he's the one that said, we're cowards when it comes to a conversation about race, and my response to that was, oh, really? Well, I'm not. Why don't you try engaging me? Because here's some of the things I think that we need to talk about in this overall conversation here about race in America. When is enough enough? When is white society going to be through paying for sins that they did not commit? All right? The people living in 2014 are so far removed from that institution of slavery, but yet they continue to pay for the sins of slavery. And at some point, that's where the forgiveness comes in. And like I said, I found it in my heart to forgive America for that ugly past, and that has allowed me the ability to move forward, because if we don't forgive, we'll never get beyond this. But that's my fear here, is that, at some point people just say, hey, the heck with it. And that doesn't mean that they won't, they'll go back to the ways of the way things were in the 1950s, the 1900s, but they'll just say, you know what, I'm just going to stay away from it. I'm not going to be bothered with it. And we need people to stay engaged and continue to move this nation forward in terms of these race issues. But if we don't have the real hard conversations, and I say this toward Eric Holder, when are they going to be done paying for sins that they're not committing anymore? Because we need to know that at some point, look, you forgive, you don't forget. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the history of this country in any aspect, good, bad, or indifferent. All right, but if we're going to move forward, you can't keep opening up these old wounds, bringing this stuff up and throwing it in people's faces, because after a while they resent it. And also, the other thing that we need to ask is we need to ask ourselves, how did these American ghettos form? That's where the police have their toughest performance of their duties. And these American ghettos are the manifestation of failed liberal government policies that prop up the welfare state. All right, it's a disincentive for marriage. It leads people to be not motivated. All right, it ties them to the addiction and the high of government handouts. That's how ghettos form. And so if we're going to have this conversation, we have to include the fact that these failed liberal policies have led to the growth of ghettos in America, where people can't find meaningful work. They're living in entrenched poverty. Their kids have to attend failing schools. And sure, some of these pathologies are self-inflicted. If you drop out of school, that's kind of your fault. That's a lifestyle choice and a choice you made. If you don't stay gainfully employed to develop a work history, that you can go on to the next employer and say, hey, look at my work history over here, and I'd like to improve myself. Would you stay unemployed because you can't find meaningful work, or you don't have the drive and the will to say, I'm going to start out with this transition job, this low-paying job, and work my way up? That's the motivation. That's what I did to get ahead. Then it's going to be very difficult. But that's a conversation that President Barack Obama and Eric Holder do not want to have. It's easier to throw law enforcement under the bus, make law enforcement the whipping post in this thing, to paper over en masse the real problems here, and it's failed liberal government policy.
Yeah, and liberals have been brilliant using the race card. I mean, any white American who criticizes Barack Obama on issues that have nothing to do with race, you're called a racist. And not only just a layman, but someone in office. And I think a lot of times when you see the Boehners and the McConnells of the world back down to everything Obama pushes, you know that that's part of it. You saw it from Romney and McCain, too. They were always afraid to go after him. They didn't have any problems going after Bill Clinton or anyone else who had the same stances on so many issues. But we see this again and again. I want to talk about Sarah Palin, who spoke about you earlier this year after meeting you at the NRA convention. Here's what she said. She said, "I love this guy. Congratulations, Sheriff Clarke, and congratulations to those you serve in the great state of Wisconsin. I had the honor of speaking at the last NRA annual meeting with Sheriff David A. Clarke Jr., and after hearing him rally for freedom and self-responsibility, it was clear Milwaukee voters had a valuable opportunity to elevate this extraordinary leader. We should all be grateful they did so. His recent election victory came in spite of enormous amounts of cash flooding the airways against him. The anti-Second Amendment groups targeting him were met with epic failure. This is good news. This is David versus Goliath. Please see this great op-ed penned by a real American leader." And then she, of course, had a link there on her Facebook page. What did her words mean to you, Sheriff? And what do you think of the governor's efforts when it comes to guns and otherwise?
Look, I love Sarah Palin. I did get a chance to share a few brief words with her and her husband Todd in Indianapolis. I'll tell you what, she's my hero. She's my idol. And I try to emulate her leadership, her courage, all right, her commitment, her love of country. And it means the world to me when someone like that would say some of the humbling words. I find it humbling because I trust me, I couldn't wear her shoes. All right, I couldn't fill her shoes with what she's done, what she's accomplished, what she's put up with, and just to hear those things are inspiring. I know when I spent some brief time with them in Indianapolis, Todd, thank you for my service to my community. That meant a lot, and I said I'm going to pass that on to the officers that work for me back here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But it's people like Sarah Palin, and I think this country missed a tremendous opportunity that she wasn't given the opportunity to continue to serve, at a higher level and a higher calling for this country. I think she epitomizes what it means to be a true-blooded American. I really do. I really mean that. If you get a chance, please pass on my well wishes to her. Tell her I said hello. Tell her to keep praying, because I'm praying for her family, and I pray that Sarah Palin stays engaged, stays involved in this debate, doesn't wait to be asked her opinion on stuff. Just get in there and take a stand, take a position, and it's patriots like her, all right? You take that, you multiply it, and we get more individuals, more Americans like her. That's when we'll start to win this country back.
Well, we certainly echo the governor's sentiments toward you, sir. And, when we're down and we see what's happening in Washington and some of these liberal metropolitan areas and state capitals regarding our Second Amendment, it gives everybody solace and gives everybody that energy again, knowing that folks like Sheriff Clarke and folks like Governor Sarah Palin are out there fighting for our Second Amendment and fighting for common sense above all. Sheriff, you're really appreciated by so many. Thanks for standing up to the false narratives and lies and standing up for our Second Amendment, our God-given rights. Merry Christmas. God bless you and your family and, of course, your staff. And thanks for being here with us again.
Merry Christmas to you, your listeners. God bless you as well. And I tell people, keep the chin up. Just keep swinging and keep the fight up. It's the fight for freedom, fight for the soul of the country.
You can follow Sheriff Clarke at Sheriff Clarke on Twitter. That's at SHERIFF CLARKE on Twitter.